Welcome. Today I'm here for you with another episode of our journey through the World of Warcraft story. Our main destination today is Pandaria, but it's a Pandaria different from what we know today. Let's dive into the story of the Pandaren Revolution and get to know the Yaungol race. For all our new listeners, I'd like to remind you that for a complete understanding of the entire podcast series, it's best to start from the first episode, Cosmology. Thank you for listening, and let's get into it. The death of the Thunder King weakened the Mogu, but their civilization persisted, dominating the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. Under a succession of cruel and oppressive rulers, the slaves suffered greatly. The final Mogu Emperor Laofey earned the title Slavebinder early in his reign. He lived a life of indulgence, confident that his supply of subjugated slaves would remain plentiful. To maintain control, Laofey heartlessly tore apart slave families for even minor infractions, separating parents and condemning children to the serpent's spine to serve as fodder in the mantid swarm. A Pandaren brewmaster named Kong suffered a similar fate, losing his family to the Mogu's cruelty. His wife perished while attempting to protect their son, who was sent to the mantid. Left with a shattered life, Kong grappled with despair, eventually focusing on a vital question: why? Why did the Mogu inflict such suffering? His reflections led to a radical revelation that their extreme cruelty towards slaves was not a testament to Mogu strength but an indicator of their vulnerability. They had grown dependent on their servitude, and without it, they were powerless. Kong dedicated his life to exposing the Mogu's vulnerability. Since slaves were prohibited from touching weapons, a capital offense, Kong learned to use his own body as one. To avoid arousing suspicion, he transformed his attacks into an artistic dance. After mastering these techniques, he challenged his fellow slaves to strike him, but none succeeded. His flowing movements and dancing spared him from harm. Encouraged by his peers, Kong began teaching them this unique form of combat, which later became known as the Way of the Monk. Word of the new fighting style spread among the oppressed peoples of the Mogu Empire. Hundreds of slaves adopted Kang's teachings and committed themselves to this newfound art. When the Mogu caught wind of the movement, Kong moved his followers to Kun-Lai summit, understanding that they were not yet capable of overthrowing their oppressors. Secretly, the Pandaren rebels erected a monastery amid the mountainous peaks to continue their training in justice and self-defense. At Kun-Lai summit, Kong discovered something unexpected: the captivity of Xuan the White Tiger. He regularly communicated with the August Celestial, acquiring insights into the inner strength found within every heart. Kong shared Xuan's wisdom with his disciples. At last, the Pandaren monks were ready to take action. Their first significant triumph occurred in the Mogushan vaults, the sacred chambers that housed the engine of Naliksha. The rebels successfully repelled the Mogu from their flesh-shaping source, preventing the creation of new deformed soldiers. This victory not only emboldened the Pandaren but also attracted other races to join the rebellion. The Hosin, Jinyu, Grumbles, and the powerful Yaungol all united against the Mogu Empire. Gradually, the revolution expanded. Kang's insight was correct: the Mogu had grown overly reliant on their slaves, and as more rebels arose, the empire descended into chaos. The Grumbles, masters of trade and communication, disrupted Mogu supply lines. The formidable Yaungol led raiding expeditions in the northwest. The cunning Hosin tunneled their way into the most formidable Mogu strongholds. The mystic Jinyu foresaw the future through water and guided Kang's forces in their strikes and retreats. Eventually, Laofei's forces withdrew to the Vale of Eternal Blossoms, the heart of the Mogu Empire. Kong knew that the enchanted land could sustain them indefinitely. To vanquish the Mogu, the rebels needed to expose themselves and initiate an assault. Kong didn't hesitate to lead the charge, penetrating deep into the Vale. He confronted Laofei in hand-to-hand combat and emerged victorious, though mortally wounded in the process. The slave binder and the former slave perished together. Following their triumph, some liberated slaves contemplated seeking revenge against the surviving Mogu, mirroring the atrocities inflicted upon them for centuries. However, one of Kang's most promising students calmed their vengeful spirits. As a keeper of Pandaren history, this student named Song had memorized Kang's philosophies and stories. He recounted Kang's tales to the emancipated slaves, emphasizing his dedication to justice over vengeance. For the remainder of his life, Song journeyed throughout the fallen empire, sharing Kang's wisdom and urging all beings to find emotional equilibrium within themselves. As Song's story spread, others began following his path. More and more Pandaren traveled the land, narrating tales and advocating inner peace. These lorewalkers, as they would be called, not only excelled in storytelling but also acted as mediators, resolving disputes with allegories and parables that helped all parties understand and reach compromises. This period heralded an era of tranquility and prosperity in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms and its vicinity. The Pandaren, along with the other races in the region, thrived. A new empire, founded on principles of justice, wisdom, and benevolence, emerged as the guardian of the war-torn land. Now let's talk briefly about the history of the Yaungols, which is very important for the other links of our narrative. The Yaungol were a robust bovine race that once lived in harmony with nature on the grassy plains of central Kalimdor, guided by the demigod Cenarius. Cenarius, who had a more humanoid appearance than many other wild gods, shared his wisdom with the Yaungol, teaching them the secrets of the natural world. However, the Yaungol grew tired of sharing their hunting grounds with nearby trolls and decided to seek new lands in the south. Cenarius urged them to stay and make peace, but they ventured toward the edge of the Mogu Empire. The Mogu, led by Emperor Kiank the Merciless, found the Yaungol's physical strength intriguing and captured them. They subjected the Yaungol to their flesh-shaping techniques, making them even mightier and more intelligent while tempering their more savage tendencies. Generations of Yaungol suffered under the harsh rule of the Mogu until they eventually rebelled alongside other enslaved races and gained their freedom. Regaining their freedom came at a price, as many of their traditions and history were lost due to strict Mogu laws forbidding discussion of their heritage. Disagreements arose among the Yaungol regarding their future. Some clung to faint memories and incomplete myths of the benevolent demigod Cenarius, while others sought to abandon tradition and forge a new destiny through force. This division led to heated conflicts. Most Yaungol who abhorred violence decided to move north, seeking a return to their traditional way of life, hunting, and living in harmony with nature. Some of the more nomadic tribes journeyed across the continent until they reached the frigid storm peaks. Others settled in the temperate areas of central Kalimdor, where they reunited with Cenarius. The return to their ancestral lands allowed them to rekindle their old traditions. Those who studied with Cenarius learned druidic magic and the ways of nature, while others became skilled in shamanic powers. The Yaungol who remained in their original home quickly clashed with the Pandaren and other liberated slaves, leading to conflicts over land and resources. Fearing an all-out war with their former allies, the Yaungol moved west, settling outside the Serpent's Spine. This exposed them to the periodic mantid threat, which occurred every 100 years, pushing the Yaungol to develop a strong warrior tradition, making them more savage compared to their northern counterparts. Over time, the energies from the Well of Eternity and Keeper-wrought machineries in Kalimdor influenced the Yaungol differently. Those near the Veil of Eternal Blossoms retained the name Yaungol but grew more warlike. Those in central Kalimdor, close to the Well of Eternity, adopted the name Tauren and maintained their connection to nature. Tribes that journeyed north, near the Forge of Wills, became known as Tonka, adapting to the icy terrain. While these distinct groups maintained contact for many years, the cataclysmic Great Sundering eventually severed all connections between the tribes. The Pandaren were not left without a fight for long, as a new threat they had not counted on soon appeared. The Zandalari always had a distant relationship with the Mogu after Lai Shen's death. Trolls found the Mogu's arcane magic knowledge useful, but they hated the constant fighting and political maneuvering among the Mogu clans. When it became clear that no Mogu clan would dominate, the Zandalari chose not to pledge loyalty to any one faction. But they remembered Lai Shen's promise: a piece of land near the Veil of Eternal Blossoms would belong to the trolls forever. When the Mogu Empire finally crumbled, the Zandalari saw a chance to claim what they believed was rightfully theirs. In the end, a descendant of the great high priest Zalothra named Mingatsi made the strongest case. He believed the Pandaren wouldn't honor the Zandalari's agreement with the Mogu. The former slaves had overthrown their masters and could resist the trolls if given time. To succeed, the trolls needed to strike without warning and with enough force to break the Pandaren's resolve. The trolls marched south, aiming to seize a fertile region north of Kun-Lai summit. They attacked a peaceful Pandaren farming village with mystical powers and huge Saurian war mounts, nearly wiping out the residents. The Zandalari then pushed into the Jade Forest, the heart of the Pandaren Empire. News of the invasion spread, and panic gripped other Pandaren settlements. They had no standing army to stop the trolls. The only fighting force was an order of monks who patrolled the Serpent's Spine. They rushed to defend their lands but were outnumbered and outmaneuvered by the trolls, who used aerial attacks from terrorowings and giant bats. The Pandaren had no way to counter these fierce assaults. A young Pandaren named Jiang came to the rescue. As a child, she had befriended a cloud serpent hatchling, which she nursed back to health and tamed. At the time, the Pandaren regarded the flying cloud serpents as untamable and violent beasts. Jiang and her serpent companion Lo broke the Zandalari ranks and forced them to retreat. This victory inspired others to follow her lead, forming the Order of the Cloud Serpent. The tide of the war turned, and the trolls realized conventional means wouldn't secure victory. So, Mingatsi resorted to a final tactic: resurrecting the Thunder King. Lai Shen had shared the secret to his revival with the Zandalari, fearing his Mogu underlings would fail him if he died. The Thunder King had the power to defeat the Serpent Riders and ground armies. A battle erupted near the Tomb of Conquerors, where Lai Shen's corpse lay. Jiang sacrificed herself in a final desperate attack and killing Mingatsi. The Zandalari trolls fled in shame from battlefield. Jiang's heroism prevented the trolls from resurrecting the Thunder King. There was celebration throughout the empire, but also mourning, especially for Jiang. Lo continued to circle the skies above the Jade Forest, as if searching for his friend and rider. The other Serpent Riders honored Jiang's memory by preserving her teachings. Within the Order of the Cloud Serpent, her tradition of training and befriending these majestic creatures would endure for centuries. As we wrap up today's episode, I trust you've acquired fresh insights and knowledge. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, what you enjoyed about the episode and the new information you've gleaned. To my dedicated viewers, if you haven't already, kindly hit that subscribe button to show your support. Until our next episode, I wish all of you, my fantastic audience, nothing but the best.